What's up, everyone? I'm Zack Dettmore with Dettmore Home Improvements, and this is episode 2 of Let's Renovate a Bathroom. A lot has happened since you were here last. Not that much, but the demo crew took all of the interior finishes out, and they pulled all the nails out and left us with this blank canvas. You can see there's a bit of a hole in the floor where the bathtub was, and we've got some repair work today, and we're going to start framing and show you how to do that. One thing we did do after demolition was we came in and we cut out any pipes and electrical that was no longer needed, just so we have more of an open space to work with and less obstructions to have to work around. So we're going to show you how to do all of the framing in this bathroom. Stay tuned for this great episode on framing a bathroom.
Let's Renovate a Bathroom, a Build original series brought to you by Schluter Systems.
This episode is sponsored by Huber Engineered Woods. All right, so I wanted to do a quick review of all the tools you're going to need to tackle a project similar to this. Obviously, your needs might be different, but I'll give a rough overview of the tools I'm going to be using today to make this as transparent as possible. We are going to try and not use too many of our more expensive tools because we want this to be accessible content for DIYers. So we're going to try and use more simple tools that you might find at any hardware store, right? So for the reciprocating saw, there's two types of blades we typically use. There is this heavy duty metal cutting blade. It's great for cast iron. And then this one is for wood and more demo related to materials with embedded nails. So having both reciprocating saw blades is great. You can use a corded reciprocating saw if you don't have a cordless one. We just happen to have one of these, so that's what we're using. The next one is a circular saw. This is going to be great for cutting all our sheet goods as well as our framing material. A caulk gun goes without explaining. We're going to use this tool right to the finish line, but we'll use it for some adhesives we're putting down today, but mostly this will be used towards the end of the job. We're going to be doing as much as possible with a laser level. I have a sort of mid-tier version right here. It's a high quality product, but you could use a more inexpensive laser level, and as long as you confirm with a method to confirm that it's accurate, it's no problem using a more inexpensive laser level. And we're going to be relying on this just to keep things cohesive for you following along, trying to do it yourself. We'll have one tool that we're taking through the whole job. All right, now we'll do hand tools. This is called a torpedo level. It's great for those instances where maybe you want to put a level on a box, but you don't feel like checking it with the laser level. So we have that. A framing square. This one's a little bit fancier than a normal one, but any framing square will do. You can never have enough channel locks. That's a self-explanatory tool. A chalk box we'll be using for snapping lines. These are great little wire snippers for stripping wire and working on electrical items as you demolish things. And of course, if you're doing any sort of electric, making sure you have a tester to make sure things are no longer live. We're going to use a cat's paw or a pry bar. That's a pretty common tool for framing. It's good to have a couple of pencils on your person, so if you drop one, you're not interrupting your workflow. Obviously a hammer, a utility knife, tape measure. A 16-foot tape measure is typically fine for a bathroom remodel. No need to have a 35 or a 25. We're going to use a drill for most of this job. If you're driving long screws and you don't have experience doing that, an impact driver might be easier for you to learn with. Various drilling bits, but one that can be pretty handy is a 3/4 drill bit for running wires. If you're doing your own electrical, I like to have some indelible markers, plenty of these, and that's pretty much it for the tools. For our fasteners, we're going to be using a structural screw. This one happens to be made by U2, but you can use any sort of structural fastener for a project like this. It's great because if you're a DIYer and you don't have a lot of experience, you drive a screw in, it's easy to back it out if you need to make adjustments. So we're going to be primarily using screws, not framing nails for this project for that reason. The next tool is just going to be a regular old shop vac. We typically like to run bags in our shop vacs because it has better suction. It's going to keep less dust out of the air, but this is a tool you're going to want next to you at all times. All right, so I brought the big guns. Who are you?
Kalen Gomez.
Right. and we've met.
Yeah, a couple
Okay,
times.
so I brought you here because we got a bathroom. So what's your first step as a carpenter in here?
Well, I think the first thing would be reading the room. So figuring out what this room is doing. Start with the floors. We want to try to come in level, check all the walls, making sure nothing's out of plane, and then we can move up to the ceiling and make sure that we got a nice flat ceiling.
Right. So basically what we're trying to do is make a plumb and square box within this old house that might be doing everything but that.
Exactly.
Right. So the first step there is basically checking the walls with a laser level, see what they're doing.
Right.
And then once we figure that out, what do we do?
And then as we're doing that, we can address all the structural deficiencies in the room. We got like over notches over here where, other plumbing hasn't passed through previously that we've ripped out. So we can address all that. And so everything's nice and structurally sound.
Okay, perfect. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start by putting this laser level on the floor. We'll shoot a line around and we'll get a sense of what this room is doing. One thing I'll tell you from experience is usually bathrooms sag from the exterior in. So the
Right.
exterior sitting on the foundation, the middle of the house sags. So my expectation is typically the high points are at the perimeter. But let's see if I'm right about that.
Let's check it out.
All right. So what we're looking for here is the high and the low number. When I'm at 6 over here, 6 1/8. I'm at 6. 5 7/8 over here.
5 7/8 over here.
Ooh, 5 1/4 over here.
At the threshold. There we go. Now we're seeing it.
What you got over there?
6 3/8.
6 and I'm at 5 1/4. So we got a good bit of movement here.
All right, Zach, so we got a sense of what the floor is doing, and it's kind of pitching out, like you said, going
Yeah.
out towards the center of the house. What's next? You want to start ripping this up so we can get new subfloor going?
So normally we would do that, right, on one of
Right.
our projects. But this being sort of a more DIY-friendly job, I'm going to suggest that we leave this subfloor just because it really takes experience to know if, when you're cutting out the subfloor, whether that wall that's bearing on it, these perimeter walls, are actually being supported by that subfloor.
Right.
And so I think basically the only compromise or trade-off you're making is having an additional layer, so a 3/4 inch additional step up into the bathroom at the door. And although that can be a bit of a nuisance, I think if you are a DIYer, it's safer to have that nuisance of a threshold rather than cutting the wall out and potentially
Getting a real sticky situation.
yeah, compromising the house. So although that's typically our best practice, in this particular one, what we're going to do is we're going to lay down some tar paper, and then we'll put a brand new Huber Advantech subfloor on top of this, and we'll screw it down to the joist, and then we'll have a nice solid surface to work off of. Let's start with that now.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, Kalen, is put down our subfloor, and you went ahead and put this paper down. What's the paper for?
We're putting this paper in between the two layers, and this is going to help create like an air barrier, like a vapor barrier between the two floors, and also eliminate, as these two different layers of wood move independently, it's not going to squeak as much. So
Well said. That's some brainiac stuff right there.
yeah.
So we're not using adhesive, but we are going to use screws that go through both layers of floor and catch into the joists. So let's lay our first sheet.
Let's do it.
And the other thing to remember is that this board is stronger in one direction, meaning it's meant to span a certain direction. So we are going to lay it perpendicular to the joists. Even though there's a subfloor that's running between this, we're going to go with the strength direction of this board.
Perfect.
All right, let's lay this guy down.
All right. We can go to the corner more.
A lot of people like to nail their subfloors. We're going to screw it down because I find this will be less likely to squeak.
Right.
And nice thing about this product is they do have a special adhesive. If you're going directly to the joists, that gives you a squeak-free guarantee. All right, so let's stagger this sheet and send this one far that way.
All right. Good?
Good. I'll get out of the way here. So Kalen, normally I would snap a line across, but this sheathing actually has these marks on it for the screw pattern. So wherever there's a mark, for your boundary screws, which are the ones on the edge, you know exactly where to screw. And pretty much I can just keep going this way, and my 16-inch on center layout is a little bit easier.
Wow, that's pretty quick. That's a lot faster. That's a really small but useful tip, Zach.
Thank you, Kalen. Kalen, why don't you measure that piece and I'll translate those measurements onto this board.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
I got 8.5 on the left,
All right.
8.5 on the right.
Wow, that's surprisingly square.
Easy for us.
Easy for us. And I'll use a chalk box. And snappity, snappity. So now we got another 8.5 on that side. So an easy way to measure if you've done it before is you just take that and run your pencil on the face of your tape. That's the original blade on that saw. And boy, does it feel like it. All right, now we're gonna pop that in there like that. And we'll transfer over these measurements. And I'll come over here and mark what my overlap is. Move it back this way. Measure that. It's a 1/2 inch and I'll add 1/8. So that means that is going to be 5/8 of an inch. And this one looks like 3/8. So I'll make it a 1/2 heavy. Now we can cut those 2 notches there. That's a nice subfloor right there.
Flat out best.
Flat out best. So this is done. Now this is not level yet. We're going to get to leveling this floor later with a self-leveling underlayment.
Okay.
All right, so the way I like to check level on a wall, quick, easy way to do it is measure 2 inches out on that side, measure 2 inches out on this side, and we'll connect the lines with a laser, and then we'll put our tape measure up, see what the wall's doing.
Got it. Let's do it.
All right, so we know it's 2 inches there, and what we're looking for is the furthest dimension in or the shortest dimension. So the smallest one of all our measurements is where we're going to call the start of our line. So what we're going to do is pulling off that mark, we know our furthest out dimension is 1 3/4. So that means we're going to potentially shim out this wall 1/4 of an inch, right? That's this spot. So when we're pulling our dimensions this way, we're just going to subtract 1/4 from our framing. And then once we level up this wall, we'll know that it's 1/4 of an inch inside.
Okay.
So the layout of our bathroom is pretty simple. We have a tub here. I'm standing in the shower, and there's going to be a knee wall or a pony wall, as some people call it. Those people are wrong in my opinion because it's a knee wall.
Knee walls.
Yeah. A knee wall's here. A pony wall, I don't even know how tall a pony is.
Depends. Mini pony?
A mini pony. But knees in general, almost always. Where's a pony's knee?
Pony's knee? Oh, it's like a shin wall.
Shin wall. All right. So the answer here is I'm pulling off this. I want my...
You want me to hold you 1 3/4 from the laser?
Nope. I just need to add 1/4 onto the dimension. That's all it'll be.
Oh, okay.
So I know I need to be... I want to be 44 1/4 to the outside of my shower. So that's going to be right here. So if we measure 44 1/4 there, I'm going to measure 44 1/4 over there, snap a line. That will be square with the back wall or parallel. And then we can frame out this wall based off of that parallel line.
Okay.
So why don't you get a chalk box off on that line? I'll measure 44 1/4 over here. Aha.
All right. You good?
Yep. Very good. Now we know our bathtub is 30 inches deep. And our shower is going to be 37.25 inches deep.
So you have a curve that comes out.
Yep. So that means the bottom plate of this wall needs to be 37.25. But that wall would be very sort of flimsy, right?
Right.
So what we're going to do is drop this 2x4 on the end into the floor system. So we'll make this bottom plate 1.5 inches short. So it's 37.25. So make it 35.75 will be our bottom plate. And then I'll lay out the hole in this floor for this to drop into.
Perfect.
So our knee wall is going to be 42 inches high, right, Mike?
Yeah, of course.
Now the joist below that we're trying to saddle onto is 11 inches below the floor. So you need to cut a slot that leaves 9/16 on one side of the 2x4. And then your next line is going to be 2.5 inches. And you're basically going to slot out the center of that 2x4 11 inches. And that should plunge into here. All right, Kalen, now that we've done some of the fixing of the walls, let's check the ceiling. And although we have all sorts of cool apparatus, we already introduced the Sawzall blade and the screws. So you can just screw that right to the wall, and it makes a darn good laser level mount. And we didn't have to bring anything else up. What do you think of that?
I think that's another small but useful tip.
You betcha. Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. Okay, Kalen, so we've got the laser up there, right?
Yep.
And the ceiling's all over the place.
Oh yeah.
So if we were in a low bathroom, we may decide to add some strips of wood to flatten this out.
Right.
But because the ceiling's very high in here, I'm okay dropping the ceiling by 3.5 inches because it's a really good DIY friendly way to do it. It's you shoot the laser, we basically line the perimeter of the room with this 2x4 material. We can follow the laser to make sure it's perfect. And the reason we want it to be perfect is because when we're coming up here with our tile, imagine that we had like a 1/4 inch tile left. If that was 1/4 inch and then it grew to a 1/2 inch, you can really see from that reference line if the ceiling's really messed up. So that's why we want that ceiling perfect. So this is the fastest way to do it. Only thing to be aware of is if you have a boxy ceiling fan that you want it to fit between the joists. So we actually space these out with the intention of having room to put in the vent fan.
Perfect.
So let's throw it up. Okay, so we got the ceiling all leveled up.
Right.
Now, a lot of times we'll actually come in and do a lot of leveling of the walls, but these walls aren't too bad. So we're actually going to do a different approach to leveling the walls later. So we're pretty much done with the bulk of the framing. The wall behind you, we need to check our plumbing specs and see if we need to fur that wall out. We have to obviously have to fix that part that's missing in the middle.
Right.
But let's talk about the layout and how it's changed. So originally, right, we had a bathtub here, a toilet here, the vanities over there, and that was it. Now we're trying to get a little more value, a little more modern function. So we've got a tub this way. We've got a walk-in shower here. We've made this wall high enough that maybe we can get a niche in here, a ledge to put shampoo bottles. This door will open up. We'll go with an extra narrow depth toilet to keep this dimension as long as possible. You need a minimum of 22 inches, but closer to 36 is going to feel more comfortable.
Right.
A rather shallow vanity, probably has to be about 20 inches deep. And then we've got a closet there. So Let's talk about blocking. What are some of the greatest hits of blockings in the bathroom?
Toilet paper holder. It's terrible when you put it into the drywall. It always comes out, rips out, and then you got a big nasty hole, and you can't ever re-hit the same area. So we always make sure we got toilet paper blocking.
So a lot of times you see blocking made out of 1x stock, but we use the Advantex Subfloor for 2 reasons. One, we had it, and it also gives you a little bit more insulation behind that, and it's plenty strong enough. One thing I think people don't really understand is the blocking for like a toilet paper holder. It doesn't really need to be super strong in terms of anchored into the structure. What you really want to do is have that being pulled in against the wallboard, because if you shim this wall out too much and you have a cavity here, you'll end up getting sort of like a curve
Right.
in the wall. So this doesn't have to be like, try and get it as close to the plane of the final drywall as possible.
Towel bar blocking is really important. Mirror blocking is super important, especially when you
Yeah.
move around, get things centered. You're not always going to land on the studs. So I think those are some of the most critical ones that we look for.
What about shower door? So you can
Shower
see the
door.
shower doors here. So we're going to want to put blocking up here for those hinges to anchor into.
Right. If you
Towel
have-
hooks.
Yeah. If you have curtain rod for your bathtub, sometimes it's nice to have them above.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bathtub, floating shelves. I've even done them for Sonos speakers. So yeah, it's a lot of good info there. All right, let me see how solid this is. See how you did? That's pretty good.
200 pounds?
200 pounds. And we'll actually have a bathtub up against this, which will help make it more rigid, but it's really solid. What's the trick?
So the trick is to let your member, or depending on the wall length, this is such a short wall, so we need like one member going down and traveling into the floor system. Because if we leave it and we just frame it, then everything's pivoting right here at the top. So all we're doing is lowering that, so it's part of the floor assembly, and you're not going to get so much of that fulcrum action.
Right.
And that's really going to make this a lot more rigid.
Right, and it's moving a little bit now, but once we've got the tub tied into it and the other aspects, the curb, it'll really stiffen up for us. And pretty solid and pretty easy to do. One thing we try and do a good job of is being aware where your plumbing is. So, for example, this is the tub spout, so we have space here. Maybe I'll have the shower control valve closer to the door. Doesn't necessarily have to be centered, but we want to get as much of our plumbing in this wall as possible because these are both exterior walls.
Right.
But really good job. I like it. Almost as good as if I did it.
What would it be like if you did it?
It would be like
Nothing? No
nothing,
give?
no movement.
Ah,
Solid.
maybe next time.
I would have done it out of steel.
Oh,
Yeah,
welded.
but you learn.
Yeah.
That's what this video is about.
Yeah, it's all for learning.
All right, well, I think that was a pretty solid day of framing. Let's tell them what we're doing next time, Kalen.
So next time we'll be getting ready for roughing everything in. So having our plumbing and electrical layouts, and that will be it.
All right, sounds pretty good. So see you next time on Let's Renovate a Bathroom.